Hello, everybody, and welcome to our episode 2 of You Are the Masterpiece podcast. Hello, it's me, Irina Portnova, and I'm here to bring amazing guests to this show just to show you that we do not have to be perfect. Just the thing that we are putting the effort in everything what we are doing, because guess what? We can be work in progress and the masterpiece at the same time, and that's exactly what we keep talking about. And that's why I have dear guest Richard Morden. Richard, hello and welcome. And tell a little bit about yourself and what you're doing in this beautiful world.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Irina. And I always say I'm a work in progress because, as a coach, I go through my own experiences and we're always a work in progress. And I like to focus not so much on the achievement, but who do I become through the experiences? And so all my experiences is what I bring to my work with clients. And that started many years ago. So I'm just happy to be here for this topic that we're very eager to discuss because I think it's one of those sort of hidden aspects of our life that we just overlook, but it has a lot of influence.
Woohoo! I'm super excited about that. And we were talking a little bit before comment live, and I said, Richard, I just saw your post about judgment and expectation, and I figured this is a great topic to bring forward and talk about it. Richard, what does come for you when you were talking about judgment and expectation?
Well, again, it's one of those hidden aspects of our life, like I could call avoidance as well. But judgment, we grew up in a sense of households, many times well-meaning, but the saying is when a child is criticized, they don't judge the criticizer, they judge themselves. And we grew up sometimes with these excessive judgments and again, well-meaning, but we don't know what the good parts of ourselves are. It's like I was talking to another person with a military father like mine and said, you knew everything you did wrong, but nothing you did right. And so you judge yourself, and then in that judgment, you don't expect much from things too, because we're told not to expect much, because don't be disappointed. So
Mm-hmm.
so you stay in this little strata of just sort of be humble, but it's a saying you don't get what you deserve, you get what you expect. So if you
Mm-hmm.
have big expectations, and the key is you're not attached to the outcome, many wonderful things will show up for you. So there's a big dichotomy of words here, but just again, not judging ourselves, not good enough, not able to, not I can't talk to that person. So we shut so many doors without even trying.
Mm-hmm.
So it's moving through these barriers of just the judgment. Sometimes when you want to ask somebody a question, you're afraid to. You go ask them and you get an answer, like it just, or maybe you want to ask somebody out on a date and they turn you down. You say, well, at least I tried.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes,
go ahead.
I love what you're sharing, and it's so important because I'm just sometimes I wonder, where does this judgment come from, right? And I think when we are little ones, right? And remember before we start being reprimanded by our parents and say
Mhm.
what's possible for us and how do we behave and everything. Like, we are born to be free. We
Mhm.
are born to dream big. We are born to do great things in here, but then as we grow a little bit older, then our parents tell us, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. And a lot of times, parents are the first ones who put this judgment on ourselves. And the more we tune into that, the more we start judging ourselves. And it's interesting because we talk to other people, we are always caring about other people, we are always, think about what we say before we speak. But when it comes to us, we always like self criticize, we're always so harsh on ourselves. Why is that?
Well, again, when you don't have the the filters growing up, and perhaps the parenting was a little bit harsh in a sense of, don't do this, don't do that, and this is how I want you to behave, and you don't have the understanding how to find that balance in that. So so I think this is maybe where the imposter syndrome comes from too, because people are so harshly judged that they try and be people pleasers, somewhere of acceptance because you don't feel accepted. Again, I realized like my father was kind of a heavy-handed guy and being critical, and I thought I want to be somebody different for my kids, and I decided I chose to be much more engaging in a sense, and not having these hard conversations, but I wanted to have more engaging conversations, and so I chose, and it worked out. It really worked out. My kids are like 29, 30, but I'm grateful for my awareness of how I chose to be as a parent. Sorry if my cold. But again, when we constantly be judged, we shut ourselves off in so many ways, and they, in a sense, to try and be good citizens. But wow, but when we shut those expectations off, we don't go for the job we want to have, we would like to have. We don't go for the education that maybe we would like to achieve. We sort of sometimes subdue ourselves into these roles in society, and I realize why do we feel so crappy about ourselves? Why don't we do things? And I guess for me, the breaker for me was I was always curious. Curiosity to me is the breaker that really opens up why was this like, why is it like this? So, but again, what we're modeled around us, we're judged by our marks. Oh, you're not, you didn't get a good mark on that test, so you better try harder. So it's meant as a scale, but somehow it also became a ceiling at the same time.
Yes, I love what you share because I remember also my childhood. Like my mom is so loving, but at the same time she was like very strict. Like even till now, like she never says anything to praise me, but more like like her love is in the actions, the
Yep.
way like she does everything. She loves me, she loves my kids, and she does everything for us. But at the same token, it's like each time she's like picking, she always like look at my appearance. If she sees the pimple or anything, like she always points it out, and I'm like, mom, like, can you just say something good, right? And it just like, and in her world, right, in her perception, it seems like, hey, she's like, who else is going to tell you the truth if not your mom, right?
Right.
So in her perception, she does this with love and care, but for me it's like, hey, stop criticizing me, like, enough, right? So again, it just all in our perception, because one person think that when they do these things to you, they do you a favor, but like we perceive it differently. And again, as growing up as a child, it was like always, yes, you did good, but you can do better, right? So it was always, that expectations that were set on us, and we were like, I think it was just coming from that point of, okay, I want to be good, I want to have that approval, right? I want to be loved, right? And that's exactly where everything just starts to grow. And then we come to be these people who are navigating this reality. And then we have this, like, we are so afraid of the judgment from our friends, from the judgment of like the co-workers, whoever we are surrounding ourselves with. And obviously we want to meet other people expectations, putting ourselves last, not really understanding what is important for me, who am I in this world, and who do I want to be, and how do I want to show up in this world.
And exactly the expectations, because we already judge ourselves by, unfortunately, how others perceive us, and yet most of that's false.
Mm-hmm.
When your friends and family and coworkers, you walk around and you really, what did you think? Well, I said, well, because it's you. It's okay. You're like, I think you have a poor view of yourself. And you have to, if we could only see ourselves through other people's eyes, the people that we care about, the people we engage with, our family members, and often coworkers, so again, we we keep ourselves in this sort of strata that we never really step out of our comfort zone. And
Mm-hmm.
that's built underneath this whole thing of trying to be safe. I want to be safe emotionally. I want to be safe physically. So again, we don't maybe ask somebody out that we would like to go out with, or even having today with the networking. Well, I don't want to have a meeting with them. Maybe I probably wouldn't have anything to offer them. And it's again, it shuts the doors on so many aspects of our life, and you just kind of say, where if you looked at your areas of life, I almost might want to make a chart. Where am I judging myself, and how seriously is that stopping me
Mm-hmm.
from doing things? My the networking, the type of clients I want to attract, the work I want to do. We shut so many doors, and it's having that the taking the attachment to the expectation out there. Because my wife and I live with two phrases, and one is, how does it get any better than this, and what else is possible? And I believe the universe responds to curiosity, and it has worked wonders
Mm-hmm.
for us. So we've been, for the last 5 years, everything we do around is, well, what else is possible? What else is possible?
Mm-hmm.
And it just
Yeah.
continues to open doors for us. So we're not judging things. We're not attaching to the expectations. We're just letting what come in, and we get amazing things happen for us.
Mm-hmm. I love what you shared. That's true. It just, like when we talk about the emotional scale, right? And we bring up a lot of times the topic of vibration, right? That we are all vibrational beings because we are all made out of energy. And how do we keep our frequency high? Again, we want to connect to the higher emotions, right? And when we talk about judgment and expectations, they fall like on the lower scale because it's all about just being good for others. And obviously in this energy we are not ourselves. We feel anxious, we feel stressed, we feel overwhelmed, right? And obviously these are not the best emotions we want to experience. And like you mentioned, Richard, just for us to kind of neutralize it, we want to come from the sense of curiosity when we ask our questions, rather than just saying, like, how is this situation happened to me. We just say, I'm curious, why is this situation presented to me? What is the lesson for me to learn, right? How am I supposed to grow from this circumstance? And once we put that, curiosity hat on ourselves, life becomes more fun, and life becomes more creative. And again, we are pulling ourselves from these negative emotions, and we are neutralizing them with that curiosity mindset. And this is something as a tool that can be used by anybody. Just, like asking this simple question: what is there for me to learn and to grow from that particular situation that I'm in, right? Because anything what we are experiencing in our life, it's for our own growth and for our own good. And obviously, if we are not learning the lessons, we keep repeating them,
Oh
right?
darn!
Yes, absolutely. We can't graduate from one grade to another.
But like, and I go back to what we said about curiosity, because to me, it's also able to resource yourself. We don't realize when we get into
Hmm.
situations that we don't know how to change our thought process, and that's where I always say about changing your resources, or looking for resources. I'll frame this in sense of the four stages of competency, because we're in those from literally from birth to death, and we're in these learning phases when we're doing something. We're learning. We won't try for a job because, well, it has a lot to, maybe it has a lot of challenges, but if we learn to resource ourselves, we take on these challenges. I went through some roles in my career that were just like mind bending at the time for me, but
Hmm.
I made it through because I was determined to learn it, and the craft, and I found resources to help me. So in these judgments and expectations, sometimes you got to bounce off a few friends and say, hey, what do you really think of it? Should I do this? Or if you choose to, that you trust their opinion. Okay, there's a fine line there. That,
Right.
what would you think, or how could I approach this? So, um, and perhaps get some feedback on that, and these and judgment. But again, we're tailored because people tried to keep us safe, saying don't expect too much, and that
Hmm.
was a childhood, a limit as well. But you know what? If you just open up, I'll be whatever comes in, and I'll be grateful for it. You know, and
Absolutely.
and,
Yes.
and what is my experience? I go back to how do I feel that this happened? When this happens, am I like, oh, this is interesting, this is nice. So now I've raised my vibration and appreciation.
Hmm.
When we're driving, when back in we were where we lived before, we used to say, oh, well, what else is possible? And something would show up on a beautiful tree or something, or so we're always just kind of in an appreciation mode as well. And that, what it does in a nutshell, it keeps us present. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the secret because everything out there pulls us either in past or, worrying about what did happen or what could happen. But when you become curious, you're present. And,
Mm-hmm.
and magic shows up when you're present.
Mm-hmm. And you know what comes to me as you're sharing, a lot of times the judgment comes from the way other people are acting, right? Because a lot of times we take that blame on ourselves. If something like shows up, and remember, it's us being aware. It's all about awareness and knowing how to deal in particular situation. That's why it's great to have the tools. That's why it's great to have the coaching, because then you can deal with any situation much easier and better. And just think about when people are acting up in a certain way and they try to put you to blame you for something. Like, how can you stay in your power and understand it's not my problem? Whatever the other person is trying to bring on, it's their issue, where they just, putting in the perspective that, hey, this is your fault, right? This is your issue. And how do we stay in that power, realizing that sometimes the people just project their fears, their insecurities into us, and then we feel miserable about ourselves because it feels like it's our fault, and we judge ourselves, and we feel like we did not meet the expectation of that person. How do we deal with that?
It's our energy, like cause effect, and example of how this came about in my life was in the early days of my EFT emotional freedom technique training, and I'm working with colleagues on stuff. I would agree, meet with a colleague, and we kind of bantered around. What do you want to work on? I said, I had a boss who was micromanaging me. So I had tough, expectations every time he came on. I was like, oh man, I get tense. So I said, let's do some work on that. So we did the tapping on that. And interesting, what showed up was my dad's energy, because my dad was military, and it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't anything traumatic at the sense. We just could feel it, So we just tapped away, and I, processed the energy. And when I went to work, my relationship completely changed with my boss, and we had no conversation about it. He went from demanding to asking. So
Oh, wow.
we carry this energy. We carry these energy fields like this. This is one of my favorite topics when I work with a client. Who's your toughest person that you need to work with? Especially, as I'm a post-divorce coach, conflicts with the ex-partner. I work on the person I'm with, because when we change your energy, those conversations change.
Mm-hmm.
And the judgments change. So we work on the judgment and the fears, but also on the energy of the other person. So, it was from you, so that you process, you release all those, again, those sort of expectations of conflicts, and in there is all the triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And that conversation will shift, because, we've set a pace for you to stay in your strength, be on target, not be pulled into their triggers and dynamics. And you realize this is the power you have with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So again, but that was such a pivotal point in my life when I realized it wasn't a huge trauma. It was just a shift in my energy. And I thought, well, if I can do that I can do that with anybody.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love that example in life, right? And I can relate to that because I also, in my prior marriage, I also a lot of times took the blame for
Mm.
something that, it wasn't even me, right? Just kind of like, okay, yes, yes, he's right, whatever he's saying, right? And I could be also pretty stubborn, like if you step on my toe, I'm going to step on your leg back, right? So it's not like I'm, a victim in the situation, but sometimes it was still like, when the person is projecting their own things on you, and you kind of, if you are not having the tools, if you are not understanding how to actually separate your things from somebody else's things, you can go into that pattern when you start judging yourself, when you start blaming yourself, and obviously again, do not meet the expectation. So it's so important, like, like there is a fine line that once we realize how to see that invisible line, that, like, know that we are not allowing anybody to cross that line, keeping our boundaries, again, like you were sharing your experience with your ex-boss. Same thing, like in the relationship or at the workplace. If we know how to keep our boundaries, and we know with our energy, when we have that, like you said, people read our energy even before we speak up. So if people read through our energy that we are scared of something, if people read that they can take advantage of us, that's exactly what they are going to do, right? But when we stand strong and saying that, hey, you know what, you can say whatever you say, but I know the truth, right? Whatever you just, like, trying to impose on me, it's just something you have to process, right? Because a lot of times when people are, acting or reacting, it's all their insecurities, and we are just projecting, like we are these mirrors
Mhm.
who are just showing that person what they have to work on. If something triggers people in us, that means there is for them something to work through in order to get rid of these triggers. What do you think about it?
Well, the type of people we engage with are sometimes the partners end up being very, a lot of people I work with have narcissistic partners. So they constantly project blame. They constantly unseat you. They just know how to just take you off balance. And when you realize where that's coming from again and do the work, with the practitioner, it's hard to do on your own. You're not moved by their dynamics. They say stuff because growing up in a family too, where like I said, my father was like strong, but you get used to have what they call in your face. So
Mm-hmm.
growing up with that, so I was kind of used to it because you'd have to stand there and get talked down to. But when it happened at work, I had no response. Somebody would be mad at me, which was few and far between. But I had no response, and when they couldn't get a response, they would just walk
Mm-hmm.
away. And it
Right.
wasn't like I was defiant. I just had no energy back to what they were saying. I was like, oh, I could hear them. They were upset. They said some things, and I went, and then they're gone, and I'm like, okay. So when we hold our energy, and the other person is trying their dynamics, their tricks,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not giving a response because you're not feeling anything, that takes the power away from them, and again, and allows you to have realized, oh, this is how this feels. So we
Mm-hmm.
have that ability to not be buffeted because there's it's and the thing is, wherever you go, there you are. I've seen people change roles, change positions, and they found someone else that they had the same conflict with in another department. So that energy's with you,
Mm-hmm.
and when you realize it's your responsibility, then however you choose to facilitate that energy, where you have your voice, you have your boundaries, you have your inner strength, that will shape your world. And again, then you're going to have good things happen. You're going to expect more things of benefit to come to you because you're standing more in your truth.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, give some tools. How do we actually, come and release all this judgment and expectation? How can we become stronger? How can we become more powerful, knowing that this is our life and we are the ones to make the choices? Because every choice that we are making propel us on the path that we desire. How do we actually withstand all the judgment around us and the expectations?
Well, there's a running joke: when you think you've done a lot of personal work, go spend time with your family, and we'll see how good that inner work has become.
Uh-huh.
Most of your triggers are in your family. But again, look at where, like, make notes. Don't, like, actually do some work, do some drilling. Where is this happening to me and why? And oftentimes the family dynamics are something that's going off topic, but started young and are still carrying on 30 years later, the same dynamic. So it's, where is it happening? What do they say? Because we expect that situation to happen. So how do you want to manage that? And if you can do some work yourself on being curious around that, some meditation, great. If you want to call it to Irina and I and have a chat, and do some work to clear the energies, And that's the point. Again, it took me another practitioner to move through some of this. This is where I love working with people to shift these dynamics so they're standing more in their power. But again, take stock of where it's happening and take stock of
Mm-hmm.
ownership. This is you. It's not, you're not a, how much am I judging myself? And make some notes. And then you say, this is what's happening. And then be curious. What else can happen here? What else is possible? And
Mm-hmm.
again, and how does it get any better in this, no matter what's happening? Because those two, their access consciousness phrases, right there will shift a lot of energy. And if you have
I
to go back
love
in
it.
the corner and say, what else is possible? What else is possible? What else is possible? And just keep doing that for a while. But be
Mm-hmm.
curious.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And I also have one tool. Just visualize if you are going to talk to somebody that you know that is going to, bring some negative outcome. So just visualize that you having a great conversation, that that person clearly hears you, and the outcome is positive in your favor. So the more you rehearse it before you actually have the conversation with the person, the more you see how the outcome is more what you truly wanted to see it, rather than just be fearful, be afraid, and just already setting on that, like a path where you're saying, oh my god, I don't even want to talk to that person, right? So we are learning and we are growing, and again, when we do something like that, do not set expectations, because if they are not going to be met, we are going to be upset. Rather, just have this intention and just walk into the experience and be curious and stay positive, knowing that everything is happening for your highest good and the outcome is going to be the way that it should be, right?
Yep, absolutely.
That is a beautiful, beautiful, powerful conversation. Thanks so much, Richard. And tell people more how they can find you, how they can see what you are doing.
Well, I put my links in the chat, but again, you
Mm-hmm.
look for me as the Richard Morden Life Transformation Coach on LinkedIn, and then that's probably my primary spot where I like to share my points of view. But again, it's the yeah, just LinkedIn Richard Morden. That's probably the best place to find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And just check out the links and also check my link, and just, connect with us, follow us, talk to us, and let's make the judgment and expectation working in the favor for us, to make sure that we are on our own path and we are not listening to everybody else who are telling us how to live our life. Because remember, we are creating our life with every breath we are taking, and let's be that masterpiece that we are all creating for ourselves. Thank you so much for this powerful conversation, Richard.
Thank
All the
you.
best, and see everybody